Do you remember the movie Fight Club? It starred Ed Norton and Brad Pitt. It's like masculinity, reclaiming of manhood in its most barbaric form. These pop-up fight clubs would appear and men would go at it and beat each other damn near to death. There's a story in the Miami Herald about fight clubs, real-life fight clubs. Now, not fight clubs that men join in organizations like in the mythical movie Fight Club, but fight clubs that are administered and run by prison guards and juvenile detention centers in Florida. It's a horrific idea. Guards are forcing young people to fight one another. Guards are enticing them with rewards of things like honey buns. They call it honey bunning. That's when you take a honey bun and you say, young man, and I'm sure they don't call them young men, you want this honey bun, you need to beat this kid up over here. And if you don't, then I'm going to offer this honey bun to this kid over here, and they're going to beat you up. This is happening, folks, and this is not the first time I've heard of it. The Miami Herald has investigated this issue for over 10 years. They have a lot of data, humongous amounts of data, photos, videos, surveillance film, testimony, and at this point, at least 12 deaths have been attributed to this fight club thing. Lord Revote. He was a 17-year-old resident of Module 9 of the Miami Juvenile Lockup. He was killed after a dozen boys attacked him in the dining hall. After being beaten to the ground, his attackers used a technique called the A-Town Stomp. Revote died 30 hours later after the attack as a result of internal bleeding. Now, all of the attack of Revote was caught on surveillance film, but the imagery was such a bad picture that they could not prosecute anyone for his death. But it was Revote's death, which was at least the 12th questionable juvenile detainee death in Florida since 2000. What I'm trying to tell you is that we're sending young people into these juvenile detention centers for something as simple as, or as silly as, taking their father's car for a joyride. And then they're put into an environment where they are beaten, where they are exploited for money. Guards bet on these fights. These are the people that are being entrusted with taking care of our young people. And what do? They exploit them. They bet on them like dog fights. Are you getting this? Like dog fights. Constantly, I'm hearing people on social media complain about black crime. They talk about the inner city. They talk about violence, and they never discuss context. Very seldom do they discuss context. In fact, that's taboo. What they do is they tell you that black people commit crimes, and that's the reason why they're in prisons. Well, I ask you this. If a young person, 15, 16, 17 years old, is caught with a single joint of marijuana, or maybe he's caught cutting school, and he's put into an environment similar to the ones that are described here in the Miami Herald that occur in Florida's judicial system, what do they turn into? If you are conditioned to be violent in a setting run by the state, and that becomes your life for survival, what will you become? See, these are questions no one wants to ask. These are questions no one wants to answer. But I'm asking them because I really want to have an authentic discussion about what's going on in Florida specifically. But let's make this clear. I don't believe that Florida is, an alien. I don't believe it's ET. I don't believe that what's going on in the Florida judicial system, juvenile detention centers, are some type of outlier. I believe this same type of activity goes on in juvenile facilities all across this country and in correctional facilities all across this country. Now, if you're going to question and if you're going to point fingers at the young people who become violent, who turn out on our streets, I want you to also point fingers at the system that creates it, that propagates it, that spreads it. These young people can go in with simple infractions and come out hardened criminals with a mentality of destroy. I encourage you all to go to the Miami Herald website. Read this article for yourself. It is a series of documents, a series of analysis, a series of reports. This is a travesty. This is not a justice system. This is a training ground, a breeding ground for violence, corruption, and the destruction of young lives. This is happening in our juvenile detention centers.